Okay, everyone. I'm going to do something completely different. I'm going to talk about video conferencing in slide 64 of the 307 slides I have available for you today. I'm kidding, there's not that many slides. It's 304. I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about a different thing entirely. I've been involved in industry, in the IT business in fact, for 27 years now. And I have seen a series of different things. And I've worked in the reseller community, and I've worked for different manufacturers, and I've worked for Lifesize now for 10 years and helped design a product. So we will talk about video conferencing near the end of this presentation, but I want to talk about something different first. So let's talk about this old phrase. Of course, we all know it. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always had. Everyone knows that's true, don't they? It is utterly false. It is utterly false. If you always do what you've always done, your business will go bankrupt and your business will fold if you don't change. So, let's talk about change, and let's talk about something different. Let's talk about a thing called an accession event. An accession event was postulated as a concept by a British science fiction author who died of cancer actually earlier this year. And he talked about an accession event in a society form as, for example, you're a Hawaiian warlord, you own your local island, you probably suppress the people in the island next door, and you think that the dugout canoes you've got and the gods you pray to and the society you've built is all there is. After all, you've never met anyone else. And suddenly a steel ship with no mast turns up in your bay, and you've got this new king that you've got to pray to or give taxation to, and you've got these new gods you've got to talk to, and everything in your life has suddenly changed. You could not see that coming. No guy in the 15th century in Hawaii went, I wonder what the British are doing. Because there were no British in their universe. We're just like a spaceship arriving today. So, the world goes through things in a less dramatic way. I'm not going to talk about alien invasions today, but I am going to talk about the way that business has a similar, if not quite so dramatic effect on society. And those things happen in two ways. They happen as evolutionary changes, or they happen as fault changes. And I'll explain what I mean by those. But let me give you a couple of historical examples first. So, does anyone know who these two gentlemen are? Their names are John Gorrie and Frederick Tudor. Any hands? Anyone from Boston? Anyone from Florida? Anyone from America? There's no hands up. Right, okay, maybe you are the Space Invaders. Okay, but what do I do next? Right, let me explain who these guys are. Frederick Tudor was by Harvard Business School, and perhaps one could argue this tells you as much about Harvard Business School as you need to know, as known as in the 1930s and the 1920s and 30s as the Yankee entrepreneur. What Frederick Tudor did was discover that people wanted ice. And what he did was break it up out of lakes just outside Boston. And he would put it on boats and he would ship it around the world. And you've never heard of this. By the way, 1900, that business was the 9th biggest industry in America. And you still haven't heard of it. Interesting. He made an enormous amount of money. That ice, by the way, he started by sending it down to New Orleans and Savannah, Georgia. And the people had never seen ice there before. And they put it in salt to try and preserve it. Stupid, aren't they? Except that the way they saw the universe was defined by what they already knew. There was a guy called Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein was an Austrian philosopher. And somebody said to Wittgenstein once, why are those people in the Middle Ages so stupid that they thought that the sun went around the earth? I mean, surely every morning the dawn would show them otherwise. And he said, yeah, but if it had been the other way round, what would it look like? Of course, the point is it would look exactly the same. So what your knowledge tells you what you are seeing. So Frederick Tudor, he died an incredibly wealthy man. That ice, by the way, went as far as London. In fact, there was a store in the Strand in London with a block of ice they used to keep in the window and hang a newspaper behind it, and it was multiple feet thick, and you could read the newspaper through the ice. It was a wonder of the age. Queen Victoria used to drink gin and tonics, which were also a wonder of the age, by the way. The quinine in tonic helped you not get malaria. Not that you get malaria in London, but you would in India. And she would put ice from Boston in her gin and tonics. That ice went as far as Calcutta in India. By the end of it, he was losing less than 6% of his ice. Now, he died in 1897, convinced that mankind would never work out how to make ice. After all, what's colder than ice? So, made a lot of money, that man. John Gorrie was a doctor trying to work out how his patients were dying of malaria and thought that putting them in cold rooms would be a good idea. So he did. It obviously helped because there's no mosquitoes in cold rooms and therefore they were more likely to survive. The problem was getting hold of the ice was horribly expensive. So he came up with an idea, and in fact he came up with air conditioning and he came up with refrigeration. In 1850, 50 years before the height of the ice business. So there is a man who is taking ice and shipping it in a boat all around the world, which all of us would look at and go insane, where 50 years earlier a man had invented refrigeration, and what happened to him? He died in poverty in 1855. Interesting.